All right, good morning, Housing Authority Board of Directors, and over to you, Director Harrington.
Thank you, Clerk Moss, and good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Housing Authority Board of Directors meeting for this Tuesday, June 18th, 2024. Clerk Moss, could you do us the honors, please?
Certainly. The Washington County Board of Commissioners is now meeting as the Housing Authority Board of Directors in this regular session, June 18th, 2024. Director Roper? Director Fye?
Present.
Director Willie?
Here.
Director Rogers?
Here.
Director Sabara?
Here.
Director Treese?
Here.
Director Harrington?
Here. Thank you. We have a full complement, a full 7 members of the Housing Authority Board of Directors with us today. It's a big day today. It's budget day. Clerk Moss, do we have anyone who wishes to engage with the Housing Authority Board of Directors for up to 2 minutes an individual for public comment?
All right, thank you, Director Harrington. I did not see anyone sign up in the auditorium. Would any member in the auditorium wish to provide public comment to the Housing Authority Board of Directors for just 2 minutes? Give you just a moment to raise your hand, start coming forward. Not seeing any in the room. Would any member online wish to provide public comment to the Housing Authority Board of Directors for up to 2 minutes? Give you just a moment to utilize raise hand function. Not seeing any hands, Director Harrington.
Thank you, Clerk Moss. Next, we'll move on to today's consent agenda, which consists of 1 set of minutes, another for updates to the Housing Choice Voucher Program, then approving updates to the public housing admissions and continued occupancy plan, and then lastly, which is why I'm just listing them out, to accept the fiscal year 2022-2023 Housing Authority Financial Report. It was a good read, job done well. So there are 4 items on today's consent agenda. What are the wishes of the Board of Directors?
Motion to approve the consent agenda.
A second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor of adopting today's consent agenda, please vote by raising your hand or saying aye. Thank you, directors. Any opposed? The motion carries unanimously 7-0. Next, we're going to move on to the Housing Authority of Washington County operating budget for this upcoming fiscal year, which will start July 1st, fiscal year 2024 through 2025. And for this, I would like to invite our staff up to start us off with a presentation. And we have great staff here, so I'd like them to introduce themselves and take us through the large context of this big budget. Welcome.
Thank you, Director Harrington. Good morning, directors. For the record, my name is Molly Rogers, and I'm the Executive Director of the Housing Authority of Washington County. I use she, her pronouns. Today, we set the course for the next fiscal year of the Housing Authority through this presentation of the FY 24-25 operating budget. After rapid growth over the past few years on both the Housing Authority side and the Department of Housing Services, our themes for this next year are stabilization and sustainability, while we keep embarking on affordable housing developments. Joined with me today is the Assistant Director of Finance, Michael Clark, the Assistant Director of the Housing Authority, Jill Chen, and one of our esteemed members of the Housing Advisory Council, John Epstein. I'd like to take a moment and thank all of the HAC members who patiently and diligently went through the budget over several sessions, starting with an overview of our federal and regional programs, our budget to actual analyses, and this full slide deck. Next slide, please. Oh, I think I need to jump. Get used to this still. Great. The priorities for the Housing Department and the Housing Authority include expanding housing opportunities that meet the community's affordable needs through housing development, rental assistance, and homeownership. We're also supporting housing stability that help people stay in their homes and create pathways to greater opportunity. We're preventing and ending homelessness to ensure homelessness is a rare and brief and non-recurring experience. We're preserving affordability through asset and portfolio management, reinvestment, and acquisitions. We're promoting systems change by pursuing partnerships and systems alignment to strengthen equitable access to housing opportunities. And we're advancing equity by addressing barriers that create and perpetuate disparities in housing outcomes. The Housing Authority of Washington County is divided into 4 business lines: rental assistance, properties, development, and policy and planning. And those are linked by our finance team that supports operations, financial analysis, and auditing. We play many roles in our community, and with an integrated approach as a housing developer, owner, services funder, and administrator of a variety of rental assistance programs, we can provide a continuum of shelter and housing options that meet people where they are at and is responsive to emerging community needs. Next slide, please. And with that, I would like to turn it over to Jill Chen.
Thanks, Molly. And for the record, I'm Jill Chen, Assistant Director of Housing Services at the Department of Housing Services, and I use she, her pronouns. Thank you so much. Our rental assistance division is the largest budget and team in the Housing Authority and is funded predominantly by federal housing and urban development. It provides over 330 vouchers for our low-income community members. The largest vouchers are Housing Choice Vouchers, or Section 8, representing 82% of the total federal vouchers administered by the Housing Authority. We're currently increasing the use of vouchers to support very low-income residents in affordable housing developments. So far, 473 of these vouchers are project-based as of May 2024. Project-basing vouchers continues to grow, utilizing these Section 8 vouchers and VASH rental assistance as well, in addition to adding our regional local rent assistance across the county. Overall, there is high utilization rates across the boards. For the Housing Choice Vouchers, that's 96%. VASH, or Veterans Administration for Supportive Housing, that's 85%. And for emergency housing vouchers, that's 100%. Thank you. Next slide, please. The next portion of our projects are our public housing portfolio, which is funded by Housing and Urban Development with very specific requirements, mostly in the form of single-family homes or small plexes, and it's spread throughout the county. There's a total of 244 units. We have in the past seen strong demand for this program. When we last opened our wait list in September 2023, we had over 1,986 people apply for 900 waitlist spots. Public housing is a lifesaver for many people who are on extremely low incomes. Currently, the Housing Authority charges an average of only $421 per month, which is based on a maximum rent of 30% of their income. So as a result, these are very low-income residents. This level of affordability is unavailable anywhere in the county, especially given most of these units are 2, 3, and 4 bedrooms. However, due to the scatter site and the small plexes, these homes are extremely difficult to manage and operate and maintain. Consequently, the Housing Authority has applied and received approval from HUD to sell 60 of our 244 units. This is similar to many other housing authorities throughout the country, which have disposed or are disposing its public housing portfolio. Next slide, please. The next group of our activities is our housing, of what we refer to as affordable housing. And this is a set of properties that are not subject to the strict HUD requirements. These are usually larger projects funded using low-income housing tax credits, commercial debt, and state, local, metro, and/or federal funds. As part of the Housing Authority's strategy to maintain livability and preserve these buildings, several older properties have been re-syndicated through partnerships that leverage tax credits to address deferred maintenance. These actions will ultimately improve the operations and our residents' experience. This affected 332 units in the Affordable Housing Project 4, or AHP Phase 1 Limited Partnership. Sorry, there's a lot of jargon. And also the 260 units in the AHP Phase 2 LP Limited Partnership, and the 36 units in the Valfree Limited Partnership. These projects or limited partnerships represent 71% of the total affordable housing portfolio. We expect this type of financing to continue as we seek to redevelop our other projects, including the Woodspring Apartments for 172 units, and advance a number of other sites owned by the county and the Housing Authority. In general, these types of activities require greater collaboration with our funding partners and our community service providers. Next slide, please. As mentioned, there's a sizable pipeline of development and preservation, as well as acquisition done in conjunction with our homeless team. And these projects indicated in the slide is just a sample of the work that will be needed over the next 24 months. Many of these real estate activities will take time as projects go through design, development, permitting, and financing over the next few years. It is an ambitious timeline regarding housing-related development and redevelopment, and it is truly unprecedented on the county level for any public housing agency. It is, as Molly mentioned also, it is our desire and will to tackle this housing and homeless crisis head-on without delay. Next slide. As a final note, just a quick overview about the regional affordable housing bonds from Metro. So far, 8 projects are completed, bringing 509 new affordable homes. 2 projects are in construction, and 2 projects are in planning, with Woodland Hearth targeted closing in November 2024. We are exceeding all of our goals that we set out with Metro. Our total affordable homes had a goal of 814, and we are on track to meet 958. We had extremely low income goal of 334 units. We're on track to meet 359. Our family goal was 407, and we're on track to meet 498. And our permanent supportive housing goal was 100, and we're on track to meet 157. Out of the 12 units, 12 projects, Housing Authority will have 2 developments, the Valfree and Heartwood Commons, plus Aloha 209 is the last project, which the Housing Authority is moving forward with the developing Metro-owned site, which was purchased in January 2024, which we will be seeking additional state funding for closing, fingers crossed, sometime in end 2025, early 2026. So without further ado, next slide, I turn it over to my colleague, Michael. Molly.
If I could just comment while you're switching, those numbers are pretty astounding. So let's not pass through that too quickly. Let's make sure we kind of pat yourselves on the back for the accomplishments that you've made. So good job on that.
Washington County has delivered.
That's right.
And exceeded the goals.
Good morning. I'm Michael Clark, for the record, Assistant Director of Finance, he, him, his pronouns. And I'm excited to present the 24-25 proposed budget. First off, I'd like to go over some budget highlights, and I would like to hand it off to John Epstein, a member of our Housing Advisory Committee.
Okay, again, for the record, I'm John Epstein. I'm a member of the Advisory Committee, and I think you all know it, but maybe for the audience, the Advisory Committee is made up of members of our county from a lot of different professional walks of life. So we bring our expertise to the committee. And many of the things we're discussing today, the committee, through our monthly meetings, we've discussed all year long. But most recently in our last meeting, we did a detailed review of the budget, which we recommended to forward to you with a unanimous vote. So I just wanted to go over kind of what the committee does. Our highlights are, again, we have a very ambitious plan with the Metro, the state, and Washington County funding, as you all know, and we've talked about some numbers. We're really trying to grow our portfolio and help and meet the needs of our county. And through that, we've created new strategies to preserve affordable housing and create new developments. And through that, we're trying to really have rapid growth and meet the needs of our citizens. To meet that, we're having some changes in the Housing Authority. We're transforming some of our ownership structures, as was discussed earlier. We're looking to sell 60 units and take that money and put it in other types of projects. We're also transitioning more to tax credit projects. And again, that's leveraging the bond money we're getting from Metro. It's leveraging federal dollars in the form of tax credits. In addition to that, through this, we're looking to do an overall improvement of our ongoing cash flow and funds and improve our financial position. We are dependent a lot on federal money for funding, and so by repositioning this portfolio, our goal is to really diversify our income stream, which we think is critical to have continual growth. And this is something we've discussed at the Advisory Committee and we've discussed with our staff. Through that, we're having some things we're facing. And some of those things we are facing is, in this budget, you will see later, it's going to be discussed that we're looking at a $1.6 million deficit. And we discussed that a lot in the Advisory Committee. And a lot of that is due to a number of items. Some of it is just timing. As you know, we're doing a lot of new real estate development, which we get real estate development funds out of. So it's timing. We might have a deficit this year. We really expect to see some cash flow coming in the next 12 to 24 months to make up some of that deficit. Also, as you know, federal has been cutting back on funding, and so again, we're positioning ourselves to do that, diversify our cash flow. And in addition to that, we talked earlier about selling 60 properties, which are actually a bit of a drain on us, and take that money and to put it into what we feel is more productive properties. So at a high level, I think that's just kind of what our position is, what we're trying to achieve in the next coming 12 to 24 months. And again, we discussed this numerous times at the Advisory Committee, the strategy, the timing, and how we're going to achieve that. And so with that, I think I'll just turn it back over to the professional staff, which will give you more details.
Thank you so much, John.
Thank you very much, John. I'll continue on for some of our budget highlights. So we're planning for significant growth in development and preservation activities to create new housing opportunities and to preserve expiring affordable homes. We have transitioned most of the HAWK affordable housing portfolio to tax credit partnerships that funded major rehabs, which extended the useful lives of the buildings and increased operational efficiency. In addition, we are embarking on the Section 18 disposition of 60 HUD public housing units, approximately 25% of this portfolio, over the next couple of years. We expect improvements in HAWK's financial position from the Section 18 sales proceeds, from the tax credit partnerships, and with our future development activities. We are also right-sizing staff to operate more efficiently and to focus additional resources on development and preservation, the Section 18 activities, and the move to work activities. Staff are being strategically redeployed, and there will be reductions in staffing in certain areas. We have implemented a position control process to review and prioritize the filling of vacancies and new positions within the authority and the department. Altogether, HAWK is reducing 5 full-time positions at this point. With next year's budget, the 25-26 budget, we're going to align the Department of Housing Services and Hawks budget processes. DHS and Hawks staff and programs are interrelated, and this will strengthen our operational and strategic planning efforts moving forward. Next slide, please. Can you go back one? There we go, thank you. So as we can see here are our operating revenues and expenditures for the proposed budget. Total operating revenues of $61.8 million are increasing 10% from our current year-end projections. Total operating expenditures, not including interest, taxes, depreciation, and amortization, are $60.9 million, and those are increasing 7% from our current year-end projections. Our interest, taxes, depreciation, and amortization expenditures will be $2.6 million. And the unrestricted funds of $1.68 million are being used to meet our program expenditure needs that exceed our current revenue sources. As we've mentioned before, we're developing a long-term strategy to ensure sustainability for future years. Next slide, please. This one shows our net position. So the net position is projected to be $36.4 million at the end of the current fiscal year and $34.7 million at the end of next fiscal year. The unrestricted portion of this is forecasted to be $5.2 million. The restricted portion is forecasted to be $7.3 million, and that includes our set-asides required by our investors and the tax credit partnerships, replacement reserves for the properties, HUD restricted accounts, and then restricted payments that we have for other liabilities, such as vendors. Next slide, please. So let's talk a little bit about understanding Hawks revenue sources here. As we can see from the bar graphs here, housing assistance payments are our largest revenue source at $48 million, and we're anticipating those will increase by $7.4 million from the prior year. The rest of our other programs are small in scale to that. Next slide, please. So on the expenditure side, again, we can see that the majority of Hawks funding is restricted for specific programs such as housing choice vouchers and also our public housing. Housing assistance payments are our largest expenditure at $48 million and will increase by $6.7 million from the prior year. Payroll is also increasing by $1.2 million. And then we have some major decreases in repairs and maintenance at $806,000, administrative and overhead costs at $350,000, utilities at $273,000, and our debt service principal of $1.1 million because we had purchased Wood Spring apartments in the past. Next slide, please. This shows a snapshot of our full-time equivalent of our head count there. We're going to increase 3.8 positions, or 8% from the prior year, and primarily we need to do that to support growth in our Housing Choice Vouchers program. Next slide, please. Now we're going to transition over, instead of looking at the big picture, we're going to look at each of the program budgets within the Housing Authority. So the first program is Housing Choice Vouchers. So as we can see here, that our HUD Housing Choice Voucher funding is not keeping pace with current market rent rates. In 2023, for example, the average HUD funding for a voucher was $1,018, yet the average market rent rate for a unit was $1,025. Next slide, please. The housing assistance payment projection for our calendar year 2024, HUD does things in a calendar year instead of a fiscal year, is $41 million, and this is a 35% increase since 2020. We are projecting to increase our voucher capacity to 3,331 vouchers during 2024. This is a 12% increase since 2020. As previously mentioned, though, our HUD funding levels are not keeping pace with the rising market rent rates. Next slide, please. So public housing. The public housing portfolio has 244 units. We plan to sell 60 of those units in the future. The sale of these units, though, is not reflected in the proposed budget. I plan to do that over the next couple years. HUD provides operating and capital funding to support this program. Compared to the prior year, operating funding has decreased $26,000 or 3%, and tenant revenues has decreased $224,000 or 19%. Expenditures have decreased $250,000 or 8%. That's primarily due to having less payroll and overhead costs attributed to this program. Next slide, please. Onto our affordable housing portfolio. So the affordable housing portfolio, shaded in green, includes a total of 261 units. Several other properties are being re-syndicated through tax credit partnerships to improve operations and our residents' experience. 332 units are in the AHP4 Phase 1 LP. That one's shaded in the yellow. And then we've got 260 units are in the AHP Phase 2 LP. That one's shaded in the orange color. And finally, 36 units are in the Val-Free LP, and that's shaded in the purple. So total revenues in this portfolio are decreasing by $634,000 or 14%. It's primarily due to less tenant revenue of $595,000. As previously mentioned, 260 units are being re-syndicated in the HAWK AHP Phase 2 LP and are not part of the HAWK portfolio in 2024. So as we can see, the green bar is decreasing over time as we have properties moving into the tax credit partnerships. Total expenditures are decreasing by $2.6 million. That's primarily due to $941,000 decrease in repairs and maintenance, $566,000 decrease in overhead, and the $1.1 million decrease in debt service principal for the acquisition of Woodspring Apartments, which occurred in 2023. Unrestricted funds of $616,000 are being used to meet program expenditure needs, such as depreciation that exceeds current revenue sources that we have available. Next slide, please. Then in our development area, this chart has a lot of information in it, and I apologize that the shading is not showing up for the staff FTE very well on the projection here. But development staff FTE is increasing from the prior year to support the development and preservation pipeline. Revenues are $1.8 million primarily from developers' fees, such as from our Quatama Crossing Apartments partnership. And then expenditures are primarily for $1.1 million of payroll and $1 million for administration and overhead costs. And we will be using unrestricted funds of $367,000 to meet program expenditure needs that are currently not being met by our revenue sources. Thank you. Pass it over to Molly.
So we would like to highlight some future considerations for you all, challenges and opportunities that it could influence how we adopt and adapt over time to market conditions and new pursuits. That, as you may know, Metro is exploring a potential supportive housing services reform package that could divert some of the funding collected to the production of affordable housing. Our priority here in Washington County, it remains serving our most vulnerable community members with housing services and wraparound supports. SHS has been very successful in Washington County, and we have plans to expand these resources as they come our way. So whatever changes could happen if this gets referred to voters, we know it will affect our overall outlook between our housing services side as well as our homeless services. That said, we also know that the Metro Affordable Housing bonds have largely been fully committed. Out of the total 12 projects in Washington County, only 2 remaining to get off the ground. So there is, for us, it's also pursuing additional state supports or other federal resources to continue our housing pipeline. Due to the increased development activity at the state from public financing, such as the Metro Housing Bond, the private activity bonds, that generally is a funding source for the biggest, largest funding stream for these projects, which is called the 4% low-income housing tax credit. will mean that it requires additional careful project planning to know exactly when those private activity bonds will become available. This has been also a source of funds. The 4% low-income housing tax credit and or private activity bonds has been a source of funds for the preservation of affordable housing projects, and we hope to continue.
Seeing any hands, Director Harrington.
With that, I will close today's public hearing and ask the board if you have any questions, any further questions or comments before I ask for a motion to adopt this rather extensive budget in service to the broad needs here in our community. Directors, any?
No, I just want to say that was a great report. We need to hear things like this. It was a great overview of all the different tentacles that you guys deal with. So thank you very much for this report. I wanted to make sure that we communicated our appreciation for the work that you put in on a daily basis, but certainly in preparing this report. So thank you.
Yeah, totally echo the appreciation for the comprehensive picture here. And, I think especially your strategies, I think really helping us understand more about like the current outlook. Obviously, we've got some challenges ahead in terms of trying to make sure that we're fitting all of the right pieces into the puzzle. I'm curious, like, as you look forward and you're thinking, the piece about the Metro bond, I think was especially, critical here. Like, as we're looking forward, thinking about those sources of revenues and where we're going to, right-size the budget so that every year we can't probably pull from discretionary funds to make that work. How do you, as you're thinking about that strategy and the ongoing needs for affordable housing, how do you move us through that so that we're not in that position every year? I know you kind of laid out a lot of different opportunities, the sale of the public housing, but do you see, as you're looking forward into the future, further reductions in services or other pieces like that you're concerned about, or is it a timing thing at the end of the day?
The vast majority of where we see ourselves is it's a timing issue, and that most of our resources have been tied up in construction activity. So because we have two transformative limited partnerships, 5 properties each, we're talking 70% of our total portfolio. A lot of those funds are being held essentially until we can finish up with our lease up and we get to stabilization and we know what the financial long-term permanent debt will be. So that is, each of those periods about 2 to 3 years, and then we're closing out on the first phase. We're still in the middle of the renovation of the second phase. So we do anticipate there's still 1 to 2 more years until we really understand how the transformation of changing ownership structures, we're changing fiscal years, the timing of when we get cash flow is all alternating. So part of that is we're needing to adopt our budget practices so that we can better understand the timing of that cash impact. And then, of course, we will continue to pursue development activities that we hope generate developer fees and bring in income back to the Housing Authority, and understanding the forecasting of the amount of staffing we need to have that kind of revenue generating kind of business line, so that we can see over the next 5 years what is the kind of capacity we need in both staffing and consulting times, and then again the timing of when those developer fees come in. And of course, once you close on those projects, we look at deferred developer fees and cash flow off the property. So that's the future work we need to do as a housing authority in this next fiscal year.
Sure, I'll make a comment. Thank you for your great presentation. I really enjoyed this presentation. I know it was a numbers presentation and a budget related, but I really appreciate the impact, the story of impact of the Housing Authority that you told here today. So I'm noticing that difference in the prior years as this year. So thank you. You're having a tremendous impact, positive impact in our community. And if you ever doubt the impact of your services, I'm a testament of your services. I'm very proud of my background and where I came from, and it's no secret that I came here as a refugee and lived in low-income housing. So people like you, not particularly you, because this is 1997, but people in your shoes, having the same level of leadership, did those services as you're doing today, and you're having a positive impact for the future generations, because those generations could now eventually also be in this space as well. So thank you to your leadership, and thank you for your services. I am so sorry that you're having to cut 5 positions. I heard that very loud and clear, and I share that pain with you all. And whatever I can do in my own individual service, I'm here to help. I don't know where to start, so you would have to direct me. But housing is very important, and it's one way we can really help people. But the most important thing that I really appreciate about housing conversations and strategies or tactics, discussions is houses are nothing if they're not affordable. You know, what's the value of setting up a structure if nobody can afford? And that's the thing that you all centered today in your own budget presentation and storytelling, that we really need to make these structures affordable, and you uplifted and elevated the heartbeats in those houses. So I appreciate your services, and thank you for participating in the advisory committee, and yeah, thank you.
Any other directors for comments? All right, I will add that I appreciate the work that our staff and the advisory committee have taken us through over this current fiscal year in order to ensure that we are better positioning the portfolio, that we are considering and implementing strategies that will serve us today, but more importantly for the long term. But I'd also like to give a shout out to the full team for helping us lean into opportunities so that we are as effective as we possibly can be in taking advantage of each and every tool to support our community. It's really excellent work. I also want to compliment you on the budget document. It's well put together, straightforward to read, and helped me practice my understanding of various acronyms that are important to the work of the Housing Authority of Washington County. So good work, let's keep it up. And I turn the floor over to my colleagues to see if any of you would like to put a motion on the table for us to adopt this proposed operating budget for this upcoming fiscal year FY25.
Motion.
I second.
We have a motion from Director Roper, a second from Director Savaro. All those in favor, please vote by raising your hand or saying aye. Thank you, directors. Any opposed? The motion carries unanimously 7-0. It's a great, just over $61 million budget. Thank you. We have to celebrate these formal milestones because it's what enables our staff to do the great work in service to community each and every day. So that brings us to our next public comment opportunity. This is an opportunity for members of our community to come and speak to the Housing Authority Board of Directors for up to 5 minutes an individual. Clerk Moss, do we have anyone who wishes to do so?
Thank you, Director Harrington. I did not see anyone sign up in the auditorium. Any member of the public that came into the auditorium, if you wish to provide public comment for up to 5 minutes, the Housing Authority Board of Directors, just, raise your hand, start coming forward. Not seeing any in the room. Would any member online via Zoom wish to provide public comment for up to 5 minutes? The Housing Authority Board of Directors give you just a moment to utilize raise hand function. Not seeing any hands. Director Harrington.
Thank you, Clerk Moss. Next, we have Board of Directors announcements. Are there any announcements that our board members wish to make? I would just share that last Thursday or Friday, we celebrated the grand opening of another affordable housing bond project at Cedar Rising in Aloha in Commissioner Treese's district. And they leased up much more quickly than they ever anticipated. So it is fully leased up. It is a beautiful project. Job well done to LMC Construction and to Bridge. So thank you very much. And with that, I would like to ask for a motion to adjourn the Housing Authority Board of Directors meeting.
A motion?
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please vote by raising your hand or saying aye. Thank you, directors. Any opposed? The Housing Authority Board of Directors for June 18th, 2024 is hereby adjourned. And we will take a quick break for our audience to change over, if it would like, before we convene as the Washington County Board of Commissioners and the Board for Clean Water Services. Thank you.
Commissioner Treese, are you back with us?
Commissioner Willie, if you're in the building, we'd love to have you join us.
Commissioner Willie? Paging Commissioner Willie?
There he is.
All right. Good morning, Board of Commissioners, and over to you, Chair Harrington.
Well, good morning, everyone. I'm loving the energy in the room. Welcome to the June 18th, 2024 Washington County Board of Directors meeting. We're also convened as the Board of Clean Water Services. Clerk Moss, could you do us the honors, please?
Certainly, Chair Harrington. As you said, the Washington County Board of Commissioners also meeting as Board of Directors for Clean Water Services and all other county service districts is meeting this regular session, June 18th, 2024. Commissioner Rogers? Here. Commissioner Willie?
Here.
Commissioner Treese?
Here.
Vice Chair Fye?
Present.
Chair Harrington.
Here. Thank you. We do have a couple of agenda changes since the agenda was first published. We have pulled one of the items off of the consent agenda. That would be item 23. So we have that leaves us with 23 items on today's consent agenda. And item E12 had some revisions to the materials. Beyond that, it's still a very full agenda today. It's a big budget day. We have lots of budgets to have public hearings on and adopt. So the next item on our agenda is public comment. This is an opportunity for any member of our community to come and speak to us for up to 2 minutes an individual. Clerk Moss, do we have anyone who wishes to do so?
Did not see anyone sign up in the auditorium. Any members that come into the auditorium, if you wish to provide public comment on any county-related topic for up to 2 minutes, just raise your hand and start coming forward. Not seeing any in the room. Would any member online wish to provide public comment to the Board of Commissioners for up to 2 minutes on any county-related topic? Give you just a moment to utilize raise hand function. Not seeing any hands. Chair Harrington.
Thank you, Clerk Moss. And I would like to give a thank you to Commissioner Treese. She is on the other side of the globe on a business trip for Clean Water Services and all of us. And I appreciate that she has joined us today to see this final stage of our budget adoption steps. So thank you for joining us. I know it's rather early in the morning there. Oh, dark early. So here we go with today's consent agenda. It consists of 23 items, 2 sets of minutes, 6 items from Clean Water Services, 1 item from Health and Human Services, 1 item from Facilities, Fleet and Parks, 1 item from Finance, 1 item from Assessment and Taxation, 1 item from Emergency Management, 1 item from the County Administrative Office, 2 items from Human Resources, and 7 items from Land Use and Transportation. What are the wishes of the Commission?
Second.
We have a motion and a second to adopt today's consent agenda. All those in favor, please vote by raising your hand or saying aye. Thank you, Commissioners. Any opposed? The motion carries unanimously 5-0. I almost said 7-0 from the preceding Housing Authority Board of Directors. Next, we have proclamations, and today we have a very significant proclamation for recognizing Juneteenth here today. And before we do so, I know that we have some special guests and a presentation. So please, Danny Ledesma and guests, please. Oops, they're down the hallway. Yes, they are. Yes, they are.
Danny's looking around for support.
We've wrapped up our prior meeting a little bit sooner than they realized. So here we are. We'll give them all a moment to come into the auditorium. See, we are a very welcoming bunch here. We hope you'll join us. We hope you'll join us Thursday night, June 20th, here at 5 p.m. for the State of the County address. So,
Chair, as we're waiting for everyone to get settled, let me just draw attention to some new signage that we have in our building. There is new welcome signage in our building, and it is in all of our safe harbor languages, and so we do want to continue to lift up our safe harbor languages and also show that our public services building is a welcoming and inclusive place. Also on the display monitor in the lobby, One Washington County has also been added, which reflects your board's recent action of adopting your strategic plan update, which establishes our mission and vision as One Washington County and Design the Future. And I think I bought enough time.
welcome.
Chair, I think also, just as a correction, your State of the County is at 6 o'clock.
Oh, it's at 6 o'clock.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Either that or my calendar's wrong, so. yes,
Or I
thank
would
you.
have to deliver it twice. I'm not sure my voice would last that long. So 6 p.m. this Thursday night. So I'd like to turn it over to each of you. Welcome.
Good afternoon, Chair Harrington and board members. For the record, my name is Danny Ledesma. I'm an assistant county administrator, and I get to be your interim chief equity officer. I'm so honored to be able to offer a few introductory remarks on our cultural heritage celebration before I turn it over to my esteemed colleagues here. We have with us today Catherine Staffney, who is a community member. We have Kimmy Nord and Tanya Teeter to read the Washington County 2024 Juneteenth Proclamation. So Washington County's cultural heritage celebrations and resource pages are an important starting point for our collective organizational engagement and learning about equity, diversity, and inclusion. The Juneteenth celebrations we are enjoying have been planned and organized by about 14 amazing staff who volunteer to support our learning in addition to their official work, and in partnership with Clean Water Services. So I'd really like to take this opportunity to tell you who these 14 amazing staff are. So we have Ashley Agtuka from Health and Human Services, Adrian Chevalier from Health and Human Services, Ika Falstrom from OEICE, Brianna Jackson from Human Resources, Kimmy Nord from Land Use and Transportation, Sam Abdi from OEICE, Julie McLeod from the CAO office, Jeff Frazier from Health and Human Services, Jason Bush from County Council, Lorena Cousins from Clean Water Services, Robin Hill from the County Administrative Offices, Toby Lyons from OEICE, Tanya Teeter from Health and Human Services, and Tricia Phillips from Health and Human Services. It's pretty amazing. So these cultural celebrations offer an opportunity to enter into and strengthen relationships with staff and community who recognize the importance of Juneteenth, to build trust and to deepen our understanding of our diverse and growing communities in Washington County. Juneteenth, short for June 19th, is known by many names: Black Independence Day, Freedom Day, Jubilee Day, and many others. The holiday commemorates the effective end of slavery in the United States. Although President Abraham Lincoln issued the Emancipation Proclamation on January 1st, 1863, it took more than 2 years for news of emancipation to reach Galveston, Texas. The celebration also creates an opportunity to learn both about the historic and present day oppression of Black and African American community members and the community's resilience in the face of that oppression, so that we can reflect on whether or not our current policies, practices, and sentiments support the well-being and sense of belonging of the Black and African American community, and so that we can think about all that we can do to dismantle racism and white supremacy. The Black community, like all other cultures, is not monolithic. It encompasses a range of diverse life experiences and opinions. Consequently, the celebration and resource pages may not present a comprehensive picture of the nuances or full range of opinions within any culture or subculture. However, the staff who participate in this Heritage Month committee and our other committees are very thoughtful about the learning opportunities they share with our Washington County community. We encourage everyone who may be curious about what is not presented, or the policy implications of what is shared this month, to reach out to us at the Office of Equity and Inclusion, or to open a dialogue with colleagues and/or the Planning Committee and those members. So on Saturday, June 8th, it's already June 18th, so 10 days ago, Washington County joined esteemed partners such as the Black Advisory Business Council, Northwest Natural, and more to host the Washington County Juneteenth Community Celebration. It was held in Jerry Willie Plaza. The vibrant festivities was held at the centrally located plaza, providing a focal point for the event. This gathering presented an incredible opportunity for our community to unite, to rejoice, and to pay homage to Juneteenth while honoring the profound cultural heritage and invaluable contributions of the Black community. You may have noticed, starting yesterday, that we raised the Juneteenth flag high, which embodies unity, pride, and solidarity. This flag will be raised between yesterday and June 21st, and this dedicated period allows us to proudly display the flag at the Public Services Building and celebrate its symbolic representation of our shared values. After the proclamation, we want to invite all of you to join us to sing the Black National Anthem, Lift Every Voice and Sing, today after the board meeting by the Juneteenth flag, which is right outside this way. So I want to thank all the members of the committee who met over the past weeks, who've really utilized a shared leadership model in doing so. And so I'm going to turn it over to fabulous Catherine Staffney, Kimmy Nord, and and Tanya Teeter to read the proclamation.
Thank you. Proclamation, Board of Commissioners of Washington County, a proclamation in honor of Juneteenth 2024. Whereas Juneteenth is often referred to as our country's second Independence Day and has long been celebrated among the African American community, its historical significance has largely been omitted from the educational curricula, making it relatively unknown to the wider population. And whereas, despite the Emancipation Proclamation by President Abraham Lincoln on January 1st, 1863, and the passage of the 13th Amendment by the U.S. Congress, more than 250,000 enslaved Africans and their descendants remained in bondage in the state of Texas until the arrival of Union troops at Galveston on the 19th day of June, 1865. And whereas, when the news of their emancipation spread, following the reading of General Order Number 3 by Major General Gordon Granger, the formerly enslaved people of Texas reacted with joyous celebrations, launching what would become an annual event known as Juneteenth. And whereas early celebrations of Juneteenth consisted of family and community gatherings filled not only with special food and festivities, but also prayer, reflection, and respect for the ancestors who suffered under slavery. And whereas the observance of Juneteenth evolved over time, leading to January 1st, 1980, when Texas became the first state in the nation to formally establish Juneteenth as an official holiday, thanks to the tireless efforts of the late former state representative Al Edwards, who served for more than 30 years in the Texas state legislature. And
whereas Juneteenth celebrations continue to grow within communities and organizations throughout the country, helping to promote knowledge and appreciation of African American history, resilience, family, community, and culture, And whereas we honor the legacy of those who first received the news on that unforgettable day in Galveston and understand that the joy reflected in the celebration of Juneteenth provides a solve and a buffer against the generational trauma of slavery and widespread systemic racism that limits African American prosperity and health to this day. And whereas we pledge to continue efforts to lift up the importance and history of Juneteenth and work tirelessly to root out institutional racism wherever it exists and advance equity and inclusion for all members of communities. And whereas the Juneteenth National Independence Act 415-14 created for the people of the United States to acknowledge and celebrate the end of the Civil War and the emancipation of African Americans and commit together to eradicating systemic racism that still undermines our founding ideas and collective prosperity. And whereas the Juneteenth flag created by the National Juneteenth Celebration Foundation is a representative of a new freedom, a new people, a new star. The symbol of the star and colors of red, blue, and white draw their inspiration from the birthplace of the holiday, Galveston, Texas, and the American flag. The arc that extends across the width of the flag represents a new horizon, the opportunities and promise that lay ahead for descendants of American slavery.
And whereas we recognize the effort put forth by various individuals and organizations to acknowledge the African American community, their historical and current contributions, as well as experiences and struggles for equity and justice, we see the need to continue pushing the African American experience to the forefront, working to correct systemic racism. And whereas the Oregon legislature codified HB 2168 on September 25th, 2021, making Juneteenth an official legal holiday for the state of Oregon, noting specifically the contributions African Americans have made to promote freedom, brotherhood, and equality, and strengthen the social fabric of the state of Oregon. And whereas the Washington County Board of County Commissioners voted in favor to approve the resolution and order to amend the Washington County Personnel Rules and Regulations on November 30th, 2022 to recognize Juneteenth as a paid county holiday. And whereas Washington County displays flags that underscore our values as a county and a common community, and this year will again fly the Juneteenth flag in recognition of the holiday from June 17th to the 24th. Now, therefore, be it resolved that Washington County Board of Commissioners does hereby proclaim June 19th, 2024 as Juneteenth and calls upon the people of Washington County to observe this month with appropriate programs, activities, and reflections, and to continue our efforts to create a world that is more just, equitable, and prosperous for all.
Thank you very much for bringing this proclamation to life. Commissioners, do you have any comments, or would you like to propose a motion to adopt said proclamation?
Thank you for your presentation and happy Juneteenth. And sorry I missed the event on last Saturday, but look forward to attending other celebrations out there. And yeah, great read, and Chair, I make the motion to adopt this proclamation.
And I will second that and say congratulations on this. There's been a couple of comments in our, it's not a chat, I don't know where it is, but anyway, they popped up saying this is the greatest proclamation yet. So good job. You've got some fans somewhere online here.
Well, and not only do you have fans online, you have fans up here on the dais as well. Thank you very much for bringing this important work for justice and equity in removing and eradicating systemic racism all throughout our community, our state, and our nation. We have much work to do. Thank you. And with that, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor of adopting the said proclamation, please vote by raising your hand or saying aye. Thank you, Commissioner Treese. Any opposed? The motion carries unanimously 5-0. So next, we would like to take a photograph with you to memorialize this opportunity. Am I correct logistically? Terrific.
Yes, you are correct. So if everyone can come in front of the dais and we'll take a photo.
Yes, anyone who has participated in this effort or would frankly just like to support us in the photo for your support of Juneteenth and our efforts towards equity, do feel free to join us. Thank you. I just missed that flag display. And I just got to meet a fifth generation Catherine. All righty. It's a big day today. We're going to move on to our first budget adoption for this meeting, our second one of the day for Clean Water Services. Oh, I know it's blurry on the camera, but here it is, folks. Your Clean Water Services budget. And Alex, thank you very much for joining us today.
Pleasure.
Alex Van is a member of the Clean Water Advisory Committee for Clean Water Services, and joining him at the table is Kathy Leader, our Chief Financial Officer for Clean Water Services. Please take it away.
Great. Thank you. Good morning, Chair Harrington and Clean Water Services Board of Directors. Again, my name is Alex Fan, and I currently serve as the chair for the Clean Water Services Advisory Commission, and I served as chair for the Budget Committee, which met May 9th to review the CWS proposed budget for the fiscal year of 2024 to 25. The Budget Committee unanimously recommended the fiscal year 24 to 25 budget to the board for adoption. The work of this innovative and empathetic organization to nurture a thriving community is unique. This budget represents a dedication to the people, businesses, and environment of urban Washington County, of which we all can be proud. We continue to look to the future to meet the changing needs of our community as well as our changing landscape. This year's budget reflects carefully prioritized and sequenced needed capital and operating investments. I'm available to answer any questions.
No, you're totally fine. Thank you, Alex. Thank you. And thank you to the committee for all your efforts and hard work in the adoption of the approved budget for Clean Water Services. So I'm Kathy Leader. I'm the Chief Financial Officer for Clean Water Services and the Budget Officer. I'm here today to do the staff report on both the proposed budget for 24-25 and the rates and charges changes that become effective July 1st, 2024. With that, the approved budget includes, as you can see from the left there, current revenues totaling $225 million. The single largest revenue source is sanitary sewer and stormwater service charges totaling $186.5 million, or 83% of the current year's budget. The second largest revenue source is system development charges, budgeted at $21.2 million, or 9% of the current year's revenues. These are the fees we assess for customers connecting to the system. They're required to be used for capital projects that add capacity to the system. On the expenditure side, the approved budget includes $318 million in current year expenditures. This includes operating expenditures for labor and M&S of material and services of $130.3 million. That's about 50% of current year resources. Investments in capital construction totaling $104.4 million, or 40% of our budget, and debt service principal and interest payments of $17.2 million, or just about 6% of our budget. So as for a visual representation of how we're using our current year revenues and expenditures, we're using current revenues of $225.2 million to fund operating, so labor and material services and other outlays of $141.5 million, CIP investments, so capital investments in our infrastructure of $104.4 million, and debt principal and interest payments of $17.2 million. The approved budget reflects a total expenditure of $263.1 million. This is a 12% increase over the prior year's budget. Included in that increase is an anticipated $17.6 million increase in investment in our capital program, $12.4 million increase in our operating budget for labor and materials and services, a $1.8 million decrease in debt service as we pay down our issued bonds outstanding, and a $301,500 increase in other outlays for the district. As I mentioned, the operating budget, is reflected at $263.1 million. That's an increase of $12.4 million, or 10.5% over the prior year. This increase includes, on the personal services side, a 7.8% increase in expenditures. Reflected in there are 3 new positions that are proposed to be added in 2025, and the full year impact of 9 positions that were approved and added back in fiscal year 23-24. It also reflects our adjustments for cost of living and pay for performance for our employee labor agreements. On the material and services side, we see a 15.3% increase. In there, we're looking at, on the chemical costs, about a $379,000 increase, or 7% increase. This was reflecting our increased expenditure to meet regulatory requirements, ongoing supply chain issues, and inflation-related items. On the energy side, we're anticipating an increase of about $910,000, or 22%. This is a combination of rate increases that we'll experience and regulatory compliance requirements related to added need for electricity purchases in our cogen generation. We also anticipate some software licensing increases of around $710,000, or 30%. This is reflecting additional investment in modern technology, in data management, workflow automation, and cybersecurity to support Clean Water Services' growing operations and to mitigate security risk. This budget also is incorporating some natural systems projects that were previously included in the capital budget that are now moving over into our operating budget for stewardship at $1.6 million. In reflection of our public hearing going after this related to rates and charges, the approved budget before you includes in it a 4% increase in our regional sanitary sewer and surface water management rates, and also a 4% increase in our local sewer and swim rates. This will result in an added estimated $2.50 per month to the typical residential customer's bill. We also are including a system development charge increase proposed at 2.7%, and that's based on the Engineering News Record Construction Cost Index as of March 2024, reflecting construction inflation impacts. So with that 2.7% increase, we see sanitary sewer system development charges increasing by $185 to $7,900 per equivalent dwelling unit. And on the stormwater management side, we see an increase of $18 or $678 per equivalent service unit. As shown here on the far left, the district's combined, this is a combined sanitary sewer and surface water management rate charged to all customers in the district is proposed to increase to $65 per month. This rate includes both the regional and local fees in it for our customers we bill directly. This combined rate is lower than our comparable cities, including Vancouver, Salem, McMinnville, Lake Oswego, and Portland, even with the districts providing a substantially higher level of wastewater treatment than most comparable service areas. As shown here, the 10-year annual average increase in combined sanitary sewer and stormwater management rates is 3.4%. This trending reflects the district's adopted policy of reasonable rate increases on a regular or annual basis to promote predictability for the customer and revenue stability for the district. In looking at the history here, you do see that in 2021, we did stop our rate increases in that year. We had anticipated our continual trajectory of roughly 3% in rate increases, but we did freeze that rate in that year in respect of the pandemic and impacts on our customers. Fortunately, going forward, we did not have to spike the rate to make up for that. We've been able to maintain service levels and regulatory compliance with minimal rate increases over time, kind of keeping our continual forecast of what our rate increases would look like. Keeping that annual average at 3.4% even over that time period. Rate growth is vital to the long-term financial health of the district and its ability to invest in infrastructure for the growth and resilience, maintain service levels, and meet increasingly stringent federal and state water control needs. And with that, and Alex has presented for us, and thank you, Alex, and thank you to the Budget Committee for all of their hard efforts over this past year. With that, that concludes the staff report, and I'm open for any questions you might have.
Before we have our public hearing, Alex, if you wouldn't mind, if I could put you on the spot. And since we are fortunate that you have served on the Clean Water Advisory Committee, and I realize that we're going to be losing the benefit of your service because you have other demands on your time. But I'm wondering if you might do us the service of sharing with our community what it's like to serve on CWAC. Because from my perspective, it is a very significant advisory committee for the work that we do for policy, but also, as you've mentioned, serving on the budget committee as well. So I invite you to share your experience.
Thank you, Chair Harrington. It's been a wonderful experience. I was recommended this position by Commissioner Fye, and I didn't know what to really expect. And I could just tell you my time here has been filled with joy. I tell the staff every time at Clean Water Services how much I respect their organization based on the level of commitment by their staff. And I can really tell as a Washington County resident how lucky and fortunate we are. I think you just, Kathy demonstrated by showing on the slide, and we have some of the highest water quality standards in the world. Commissioner Treese here is across the globe sharing what we are doing here in Washington County with the rest of the world to improve water quality. So it's just been an amazing experience. I joked one time, said if I had to work somewhere else, I would probably apply at Clean Water Services because it seems like a really fantastic place to work. So I'd really recommend anybody who has an interest in water quality, the environment. It's such a fun place to come and learn about what takes place here in our county. It's really not even a burden at all. And for me, the decision to step back at this moment is really because I do have a young family, and I do have other commitments, committees that I chair as well, and I just have to, draw a line. So it's nothing to do with the workload. It's just my personal needs that have to be prioritized at this time.
Well, I hope you will consider in the many decades you have ahead of you in your rich life that you think of us and consider coming back for another round. That would be awesome.
Absolutely.
Terrific. All right. Well, we have the presentation of our Clean Water Services fiscal year 24-25 budget. So at this juncture, unless our commissioners have any questions, I would like to open a public hearing. Clerk Moss, do we have anyone who wishes to speak to us with regard to the CWS FY25 budget?
Thank you, Chair Harrington. I did not see any members sign up in the auditorium. Anyone that's come into the auditorium, if you wish to provide public comment on this public hearing on potential adoption of the Clean Water Services budget, just raise your hand or start coming forward. Not seeing any in the room. Would any member online wish to provide public comment? As you've heard the staff report for this public hearing on potential adoption of the CWS budget, give you just a moment to utilize raise hand function. Not seeing any hands, Chair Harrington.
Thank you, Clerk Moss. And with that, I'll close this public hearing and ask for a motion to approve the resolution and order adopting the fiscal year 24-25 budget in the sum total of $789,338,900 and make appropriations as detailed in Exhibit A to the resolution and order.
So moved.
So moved.
Okay.
Could you second?
I'd be happy to second it.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please vote by raising your hand or saying aye. Thank you, Commissioners. Any opposed? The motion carries unanimously 5-0.
I do have a comment real quickly. Thank you, Alex, for your participation, but more importantly, we get letters all the time and comments about our rates and whether or not we're being economical in terms of our activities, particularly for those people who are maybe less fortunate and are struggling a bit in this economy. I can assure you a 4% raise is very minimal in terms of what our costs really are, and I attribute that to the staff and Diane, you and everyone there, as well as the board making certain that we're keeping it as minimal as we can and yet provide the level of services that are so necessary to have the quality of life we have here and the quality of water. And so I just didn't want it to go unnoticed that we hear you out there. We understand rates of any kind are difficult. We appreciate the comments, but we have to make certain that we continue to run an operation at the high level of quality that we need to do. So thank you again, Alex. Best of luck in whatever you're going to do, and I welcome you back, too. I think you've done a terrific job.
Don't leave yet, because not only do we have another item, and I would like us to capture a picture with you, Alex.
Oh, wow.
And including with our CEO, Diane Taniguchi-Dennis. We can do it over there in that part of the room. But Commissioner Rogers, thank you. You reminded me that I forgot to share my comments. On the budget, I just want to share that I am really proud of the over 500 employees of Clean Water Services, led by our Chief Executive Officer, Diane Taniguchi-Dennis. CWS, Clean Water Services, provides service each and every day that folks like me take for granted, don't even think about it. But in doing so, they also keep the Tualatin River and the Tualatin River watershed healthy, not only for us people, but also for the benefit of nature. Our team uses the land-restricted footprint of our 4 different wastewater recovery facilities very efficiently and innovative as well, so that we're using less chemicals, all in keeping up with the anticipation of regulations for our next permit, but also doing thousands of samples across our whole watershed and rivershed to make sure that the clean water we are returning to the Tualatin River or through irrigation of lands is the highest quality possible. Because after all water is recycled water on this great planet we know as Earth. So thank you very much to our full team, to our Clean Water Advisory Committee for helping us support the work of this great utility each and every day. And with that, we're going to move on to holding a hearing and the adoption, of the rates and charges for FY 24-25. At this juncture, we've already had the presentation, so I'd like to open a public hearing. Clerk Moss.
Thank you, Chair Harrington. I did not see anyone come in the auditorium. Any member of the public that came into the auditorium, if you'd like to provide public comment on this rates and charges public hearing as presented by CWS staff, just raise your hand, start coming forward. Not seeing any in the room. Would any member online wish to provide public comment on this public hearing presentation as you've heard from staff? Give you just a moment to utilize raise hand function. Not seeing any hands. Chair Harrington.
Thank you, Clerk Moss. And with that, I would like to close this public hearing and ask for a motion to adopt the attached resolution and order with the administrative provisions and fee changes that will become effective July 1st, 2024.
So move.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please vote by raising your hand or saying aye. Thank you, Commissioners. Any opposed? The motion carries unanimously 5-0. And before we move on to our next topic, Commissioners, if you could join me over here with Ms. Taniguchi-Dennis and any Clean Water Services employee as well as Mr. Fan.
Commissioner Fye. Okay, now if we could all shift one step this way. Thank you. Okay, 1, 2, 3. Thank you, Alex.
Oh, there she is. Hello there, Holly. Thank you for joining us.
Good morning.
So next, we have one more piece of work for Clean Water Services today, and that is to approve the pay plan for our non-represented and represented employees for this next fiscal year. Welcome.
Thank you. Good morning, Board of Directors, for Clean Water having me today. My name is Holly Dober. I'm the Director of Human Resources and Risk Management for Clean Water Services. I'd like to start by saying thank you to the employees who work at Clean Water Services for their commitment and the work they do every day to provide continuing services to the community. The item before you is a public hearing to adopt resolution and order approving Clean Water Services pay plan for non-represented and represented employees for fiscal year 2024 to 2025. As required in the employment policies and guidelines, Clean Water Services is recommending that the board adopt the pay plan establishing salaries for non-represented and represented employees based on the adopted budget for fiscal year 2024-2025. The pay plan represents a cost of living adjustment of 3.5% based on the Consumer Price Index for urban wage earners and clerical workers, Western Region. Clean Water Services utilizes a performance-based pay compensation system, and the employees receive pay increases through the annual performance appraisal process with a maximum of a 3% allowable increase. Exhibit C summarizes 2 new classifications that are included and funded in the fiscal year 2024-2025 adopted budget. Thank you. That concludes my report. I'll take any questions that you may have.
Directors, do we have any questions? Nope. Seeing none, with that, I would like to open a public hearing. Clerk Moss.
Thank you, Chair Harrington. I did not see anyone come in the auditorium. Would any member of the public that came in the auditorium wish to provide public comment on this pay plan public hearing? As you've heard the report from Holly, give me just a moment to raise your hand or come forward. I'm not seeing any in the room. Would any member online wish to provide public comment on this public hearing presentation? As you've heard from CWS staff, give you just a moment to utilize the raise hand function. Not seeing any hands, Chair Harrington.
Thank you, Clerk Moss. And with that, I will close this public hearing and ask for a motion to adopt the resolution and order approving the Clean Water Services non-represented and represented employee salary schedule for fiscal year 24-25, also referred to as our pay plan.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please vote by raising your hand or saying aye. Thank you, directors. Any opposed? The motion carries unanimously 5-0. Thank you, Holly, for the work you do each and every day.
Thank you.
You deserve those accolades as well. Next, we're going to move over to our various Washington County budgets. Boom, there it is, folks. There are many different budgets that make up our Washington County budget, and so we're going to go through the various public hearings that we have for our 5 different budgets today. So at this juncture, I'm going to turn it over to our Chief Financial Officer, Greg Munn, and we'll go from there. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Chair Harrington. Good morning, Chair Harrington and Board of Commissioners. We have a long list of items to go through today, and the first 2 items are numbers 4 and 5 under Section E for public hearings. Those are supplemental budget adjustment requests for this fiscal year, the fiscal year we're in now that ends June 30th. The reason why we have 2 separate items is because as a governance of the board, you're responsible for 5 different service district budgets, so we have to keep them separate. The first one is number 4. It's a request to approve a resolution in order to adopt the fiscal year 24 Service District for Lighting number 1 supplemental budget. And just real quickly, the reason for budget adjustments at this time of year, or really any of the time of the year, is these are for items that we aren't aware of during budget development time. So this one has to do with a rate increase for utilities that just wasn't known to staff over a year ago when the budgets were being developed. So this does not increase the budget. It simply moves money from contingency, which is why we have contingency funds, into a spendable utility line item.
And as we all know, utility rates have gone up, and this is the work we need to do in order to have all the proper documentation in place to close out the current fiscal year, which will be ending June 30th. So it's coming right up. So, commissioners, do you have any questions? Okay, seeing none, I'd like to open a public hearing on this supplemental budget for the service district for lighting number 1 district.
Thank you, Chair Harrington. I did not see any members of the public come into the auditorium. Any member of the public that came into the auditorium, would you like to provide public comment on this public hearing? As you've heard the staff report from Mr. Munn, not see anyone raise their hand or coming forward. Would any member online wish to provide public comment on this public hearing? As you've heard the presentation from staff, give you just a moment to utilize raise hand function. Not seeing any hands, Chair Harrington.
Thank you, Clerk Moss. And with that, I will close this public hearing. And I would like to add thank you, Mr. Munn, to you and to your staff for the diligence that is needed for us to have a good financial management on behalf of our community. What are the wishes of the commission with regard to approving this said resolution and order?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor, please vote by raising your hand or saying aye. Thank you, commissioners. Any opposed? The motion carries unanimously 5-0. And next, we're on to the supplemental budget for Washington County. Mr. Munn.
Yes, thank you again. So this is item number 5 on your agenda, and this is a supplemental budget request for the current fiscal year 23-24, ending June 30th of 2024 for the Washington County budget. There are 9 items included in your packet for consideration. 6 of those are transfers within the budget from contingency to a spendable line item, and 3 of the 9 items requesting an increase in appropriations have to do with new revenue received. And I can take any questions you might have on the specifics.
Commissioners, do you have any questions with regard to these items which are enumerated in our packet? Seeing none, I'd like to conduct the public hearing next, so I'll open the public hearing on the current fiscal year supplemental budget for Washington County. Clerk Moss.
Thank you, Chair Harrington. I did not see anyone sign up in the auditorium. Any member that came into the auditorium, would you like to provide public comment for up to 2 minutes on this public hearing? As you've heard presentation from staff, just come forward, raise your hand. Not seeing any in the room. Would any member online wish to provide public comment on this public hearing? As you've heard the presentation from staff, give you just a moment to utilize raise hand function. Not seeing any hands, Chair Harrington.
Thank you, Clerk Moss. And with that, I would like to close the public hearing. And what are the wishes of the board with regard to approving this resolution and order?
Second, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much. All those in favor of approving the resolution in order to adopt the supplemental budget for Washington County for fiscal year 23-24, thank you for raising your hands, everyone. Any opposed? The motion carries unanimously 5-0. And now we're going to move to the next frontier, fiscal year 24-25. Mr. Munn.
Great, thank you. It feels like there should be a drum roll here. So this is item we're going to start with.
Dun, 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 dun.
We're going to start this. Ms. Angie and I are going to tag team, as we've done so many times on this budget presentation here. But this has to do with 5 of the next agenda items, including item number 6, items 7, 8, 11, and 12. So with that, I will kick this off here and start with an agenda. So we'll give you a quick, you and the public, a quick overview of the process to date, how we got to today. And Ms. Angie will cover the recap of the budget message, and we'll talk quickly about the amendments in the approved budget, and then go through each of those 5, as I just mentioned, each of the 5 service districts for the public hearing and approval. So this is a very short version of the process to date, and this really only talks about starting with the budget committee meetings, which were April 29th, but what I'd like to do is recognize the folks that put all of this together. And back to my right here is the budget office staff, and so Steve Kang, so I'm going to go from your left to right. It's Chris Weber, Fawn Crow, Steve Kang, and Ting Ting Wang. And Christine Thornhill is probably on Zoom right now, so she is watching as well. Those 5 folks and probably about 70 other staff across the county in the different variety of service areas that we offer are the ones who build this budget up. And it really starts in sometime in the fall, in the October timeframe. So all of that work goes into building these budgets that are proposed to the Budget Committee on April 29th, which is the first box there on the presentation. And then the Budget Committees approved our budgets on May 17th and forwarded those approved budgets to you, the Board of Commissioners, for approval, which is where we're at today. And I'm going to turn it over to Ms. Angie.
So another note I just want to make just on that timeline, the Budget Committee spent 3 whole days diving deep into this budget. So I will not repeat all of those budget presentations today. Please be assured we will get out in time for lunch, hopefully. But do want to just share some themes which are also reflected in the budget message, which is available online and in the printed document. Next slide, please. So this proposed budget, comes at a time of both hope and continued challenge for Washington County. We are grateful for the availability of limited duration and one-time resources, allowing us to better position our organization and the community we serve for the years ahead. We are also challenged by the long constraint revenue framework within much of the organization must navigate in order to deliver even the basic county services. This is the tale of 2 counties, and it can be seen throughout the fiscal year 24-25 proposed budget. On one hand, the proposal supports the expansion of some programs, and on the other hand, it cuts service levels in the interest of budget balancing and ensuring, at the very least, state-mandated service requirements are met. A clear strength in the face of these challenging times can be seen in the dedicated and enormous talent of our Washington County employees. The services our employees support day in and day out include everything from hosting the county fair, providing access to recreational opportunities, holding elections, helping older adults access resources, providing public safety services, building and maintaining roads, signals and streetlights, issuing permits and licensing, administering rental assistance, and valuing property and collecting taxes, and so much more. Another strength is our ongoing engagement in building capacity in systems and structures to be able to deliver the most effective and impactful services possible to our amazing community. We do this through strategic coordination and organization-wide planning. This spring, your Board of County Commissioners adopted a strategic plan update, 2024 through 2028, which illuminates the current state of Washington County operations and a path forward for 5 years. With the adoption of the strategic plan update, Washington County is continuing to take steps to operationalize the plan and build and implement foundational systems needed to continuously improve our organization in service to our community. This is the One Washington County approach. Together with the board's budget principles and priorities, which support responsible and equitable decision-making and can be seen throughout this budget proposal, this ongoing work does not take place over one single fiscal year, but instead it is achieved through multiple years of our shared commitment to rigor and learning. The Strategic Plan Update 24 to 28 contains both documentation of our vision, mission, values, and approach, and a comprehensive listing of goals by the 5 areas of Washington County's government. These values show through the plan's guiding principles, the 4 fundamentals, among other places. Next slide, please. In a new section of the proposed budget document, which is called the Budget Summary, we outlined the financial context for the county this year, starting with persistent limitations faced by all local governments in Oregon. On the revenue side, Oregon's property tax system continues to restrict this largest and most flexible source of funding for Washington County and many other local governments in the state. The effect is a constrained revenue source does not keep up with the service demands and a unique negative impact on Washington County as our population grows relative to our regional peers. I want to actually repeat that sentence. The effect is a constrained revenue source that does not keep up with service demand cost and has a unique negative impact on Washington County as our population grows. On the expenditure side, most general fund supported services are facing reductions this year in order to close a $10 million gap between projected revenue and anticipated expenditures. Although the county has the benefit of some one-time revenue sources, such as the Strategic Investment Program, also known as SIP, we have made a concerted effort to reduce the county's reliance on such limited revenue when it comes to supporting ongoing operations. As a result, the reduced general fund expenditures in this proposed budget lean toward supporting state and federally mandated services, which means leaving fewer and fewer discretionary dollars for anything else. Exceptions to this approach to the general fund balancing can be found in places like public safety, a system facing overlapping and compounding challenges where limited investments are proposed and reductions are avoided. This approach is intended to maintain mandated service requirements, restore public safety system balance, and strengthen it for the emerging challenges as described throughout this proposed budget. Beyond the general fund, one-time American Rescue Plan funding is assisting with foundational systems such as implementing our enterprise resource planning modernization to ease access to and use of critical financial and human resources data. Regional supportive housing services dollars are allowing the county to build out a system of care for houseless individuals that has virtually eliminated the existence of large homeless encampments over the last 3 years and provided a pathway to a more dignified, human-centered future for nearly 2,000 formerly houseless. A prior allocation of Oregon Health Plan dollars to be combined with other non-general fund revenue is dedicated to the development of the new Center for Addiction Treatment and Triage, CAT, that will centralize access to person-centered health and social services in this vital area. Each of these foundational projects hold the promise of bringing a greater effectiveness and supporting better outcomes for our community going forward. Next slide, please. This year's proposed budget depicts two distinct realities for the organization, the tale of two counties. Guided by the values and aspiration of you, our Board of Commissioners, that it was infused into the Strategic Plan Update 24 to 28 and your board's budget priorities and principles, the proposed budget seeks to support our organization in collaborative problem solving, continuous improvement, and strategic decision making. Nonetheless, the proposed budget also challenges the organization as resources, particularly in the general fund, required reductions for a third year in a row, prompting budget decisions meant to prioritize mandated services, avoid layoffs wherever possible, and shore up a public safety system in crisis. Despite this tale of two counties, which is a mixture of realities, and that's how I felt throughout this entire budget process, I remain cautiously hopeful for our future by partnering with a dynamic set of our partners, including other government jurisdictions, community organizations, and businesses. Our employees live the guiding principles of integrity, trust, accountability, and stewardship every day. We carry these values as we engage in dialogue about the resources and expenditures to meet critical community needs. The foundational management systems of the county continues to develop and implement will ultimately strengthen our decision-making and planning in the years ahead. My cautionary message, or you've heard my white flag that I raise, is more scrutiny and bigger picture problem solving will be needed in the years ahead, particularly as it relates to the general fund, so that we can plan for a more stable financial future. I want to hold the deepest, utmost respect for our employees, department leaders. Mr. Munn had highlighted our amazing budget team for the steadfast commitment to knit together the aspirations of our county with the appropriate resources amidst challenges and opportunities that we faced. Finally, I want to just express appreciation to the various budget committees, including you, our Board of Commissioners, for the hours and hours of work of reviewing and meetings, which have brought us here today to consider the fiscal year 24-25 budget. I do want to close with a quote from Joe Everton, who served as chair of the Washington County Budget and Service District for Lighting. In reflection of his chairing the budget committee process this year, he shared this quote with me. I am amazed by just how much behind the scenes work goes on in Washington County that we as community members don't give much thought to because work is done so well. We have it good here in Washington County. And thank you. Next slide. So the full budget message, as well as a further overview of the fiscal challenges, also your board's budget principles and priorities, which you approved in January of this calendar year, is available on our website for public viewing and information. Next slide. This is also just a visual of how community members can access more information on the Washington County budget, which includes budget videos or budgets in brief to understand a bit more about our budget process, as well as accessing this year's budget presentations. Next slide. And with that, I will turn it back over to Mr. Munn to talk about changes in this proposed budget.
Thank you. So before you are the 5 agenda items requesting the board to adopt the various budgets. The slide that's before you now has to do with item number 12, which is at the end of the public hearing section, and this is for the Washington County budget. And what I wanted to do is just give you a quick overview of the changes that's happened to the budget from the proposed budget that was presented to the Budget Committee to today. So there are 3 changes. The first 2 changes are up here on the slide. The Budget Committee made a change to restore the full amount of dues to the West Side Economic Alliance, and a technical adjustment to reallocate expenditures within 3 of the insurance funds. Neither of these changed the overall budget, so the budget that was presented to you, the overall budget, the amount in the Budget Committee is the same that the Budget Committee approved and is before you today. And then since the Budget Committee approved the budget, there is a further technical adjustment that is included in today. It'll also be included in the motion. I'll share that with you here in a moment. But it corrects a reduction from the current fiscal year by reinstating a COLA that was agreed to be reinstated in the FY25 budget. This causes no increase in the budget. It stays the same. It's a reallocation of funds from contingency into a spendable category.
And I will note, this ensures that the commissioner's salaries are consistent with those as approved or as proposed, recommended by the Salary Commission, and ultimately approved by the board.
And then the final slide having to do with this is a lengthy slide. There is on the 3rd line down, you'll see where it says, and modified by the technical adjustments set forth in Exhibit A. That's the one additional phrase that includes that technical adjustment. By the way, on the dais in front of you, and I sent it to you last week, is a copy of some recommended motions. There's a lot to be said in here, and so sometimes it's easier to read it off of a piece of paper if you decide to do that. With that, we can roll to the first budget item, or first budget approval for FY 24-25, and that's the North Bethany County Service District for Roads budget. That's item number 6 on your agenda. There were no changes from the approved budget for this item that's in front of you. And I would just turn it back over if there's any questions.
Commissioners, before we move on to the specifics, do you have any questions on the presentation that we've received today? No, okay, thank you. So next we're going to move on to item 6, to approve the resolution in order to adopt the fiscal year 24-25 North Bethany County Service District for roads budget and make appropriations and levy taxes. So at this juncture, I would like to open the public hearing. This is, once again, on the North Bethany County Service District for roads.
Thank you, Chair Harrington. I did not see anyone come into the auditorium. Would any member of the public that came into the auditorium wish to provide public comment on the staff presentation related to the North Bethany County Service District for Roads public hearing? Give you just a moment to raise your hand or come forward. Not seeing any in the room. Would any member online wish to provide public comment on this public hearing as you've heard the presentation update from staff? Give you just a moment to utilize raise hand function. Not seeing any hands. Chair Harrington.
Thank you, Clerk Moss. And if you are interested in more specifics, you might want to take a look at the presentation for the North Bethany County Service District for Roads Budget Committee, which occurred on Friday, May 17th. And with that, I will close today's public hearing and ask my colleagues, what are the wishes of the commission with regard to this resolution and order?
Madam Chair, I move to adopt the fiscal year 2024-2025 North Bethany County Service District for Roads budget and make appropriation as set forth in Exhibit B and approved by the Budget Committee in the amount of $21,375,548 and approved by the Budget Committee in the amount and levy the permanent property tax rate of $1.25 per thousand of assessed value.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please vote by raising your hand or saying aye. Thank you, Commissioners. Any opposed? The motion carries unanimously 5-0. Next, we're going to move on to the Urban Road Maintenance District. For this, we have a proposal before us for over $18 million, and I'd like to open the public hearing on the Urban Road Maintenance District budget. Clerk Moss.
Thank you, Chair Harrington. Did not see anyone come in the auditorium. Any member in the auditorium who wishes to provide public comment on this public hearing, the UMRD Special District budget, please raise your hand, start coming forward. Not seeing any in the room. Would any member online wish to provide public comment on this public hearing as proposed by Chair Harrington? Give you just a moment to utilize raise hand function. Not seeing any hands. Chair Harrington.
What are the wishes of the commission regarding this budget?
I make a motion to adopt the fiscal year 24-25 Urban Road Maintenance District budget and make appropriations as set forth in Exhibit B and approved by the Budget Committee in the amount of $18,310,384 and levy the permanent property tax rate of 0.2456 per 1,000 of assessed value.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please vote by raising your hand or saying aye. Thank you, Commissioners. Any opposed? The motion carries unanimously 5-0. Next, we're going to move on to the Enhanced Sheriff Patrol District. Whew. And here we go. I would like to open the public hearing on this budget for just over $56 million. Clerk Moss.
Thank you, Chair Harrington. I did not see any members of the public come in the auditorium. Would any member of the public in the auditorium wish to provide public comment on the ESPD proposed budget before the commission? Just raise your hand or start coming forward. Not seeing in the room. Would any member online wish to provide public comment for up to 2 minutes on this public hearing with the information provided in the packet? Give you just a moment to utilize raise hand function. Not seeing any hands. Chair Harrington.
Thank you, Clerk Moss. And with that, I would like to close today's public hearing. What are the wishes of the commission with regard to the ESPD budget?
Probably my turn. Okay, I would move to approve the budget, make the appropriations in the amount of $56,024,882. It's all in Exhibit B. Levy the permanent tax rate of 0.6365 per thousand of assessed value, and approve the local option levy rate of 0.83, that's 83 cents per thousand of assessed value.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please vote by raising your hand or saying aye. Thank you, Commissioners. Any opposed? The motion carries 5-0. Next, we're going to move on to the Service District for Lighting Number 1 budget. Whew. This is a budget for up to just under $4 million. And with that, I would like to, whoops, I skipped one. Sorry, I'm going to back up. We approved a few other budgets, but first we're going to consider the Washington County fee schedule. We had a great presentation on the entire fee schedule. There are over 900 fees, and this year our staff eliminated a few fees, updated all the fees to be consistent with state requirements, and just did a terrific job. So if you're interested in learning more, please check out that recent work session presentation. And at this juncture, I would like to, I don't believe we need a public hearing on the fee schedule. So I would like to ask the Board of Commissioners to approve the resolution in order to adopt the fiscal year 24-25 fee schedule.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you, Commissioners. All those in favor, please vote by raising your hand or saying aye. Thank you, Commissioners. Any opposed? The motion carries unanimously 5-0. That's a very important detail before we get to the budget, because that helps provide some revenue. Next, we're going to move on to the Service District for Lighting Number 1 budget. This is the one with a budget of just under $4 million. So, Clerk Moss, I would like to open a public hearing on the Service District for Lighting Number 1 budget.
Thank you, Chair Harrington. I did not see anyone come in the auditorium to sign up. Would any member in the auditorium wish to provide public comment on the Service District for Lighting proposed budget before the Commission? Just stand up, raise your hand, or come forward. Not seeing you in the room. Would any member online wish to provide public comment for up to 2 minutes on this public hearing as provided in the packet? Give you just a moment to realize your hand online. Not seeing any hands, Chair Harrington.
Thank you, Clerk Moss. And with that, I will close today's public hearing. And this is a service district that provides for a lot of the street lights that we have overhead, illuminating our sidewalks and roadways throughout various areas in urban, unincorporated Washington County and other associated communities. So with that, I would like to ask for a motion to approve the resolution in order to adopt said budget.
Madam Chair, I would make the motion. I move to adopt the fiscal year 2024-2025 Service District for Lighting Number 1 budget and make appropriation as set forth in Exhibit B and approved by the Budget Committee in the amount of $3,989,000 and $516.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor, please vote by raising your hand or saying aye. Thank you, Commissioners. Any opposed? The motion carries unanimously 5-0. Nope, you didn't miss it. I skipped it. Yes, so before we do the Washington County budget, we need to approve the changes and establish a new maximum annual assessment and levy assessments for fiscal year 24-25 for the Service District for Lighting Number 1. And I don't need to have a public hearing on this item, so I would like to ask my colleagues for a motion to approve the resolution and order for this matter.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor, please vote by raising your hand or saying aye. Thank you, Commissioners. Any opposed? The motion passes unanimously 5-0. Thank you, Commissioner Willie, for catching my omission. And we've already done the budget for that one. So now we're on to the big kahuna, the full Washington County budget. We've had our presentation on it. So next we're going to go to the public hearing, and then I bet my colleagues may have some comments before we actually have a motion and approve said budget. So with that, I would like to open the public hearing for the Washington County budget that includes various appropriations and approves positions and levies the taxes, not only for Washington County, but also the public safety local option levy, the library local option levy, and the general obligation bond. Clerk Moss.
Thank you, Chair Harrington. I did not see anyone come in the auditorium. Would any member in the auditorium wish to provide public comment on the main proposed county budget for fiscal year 24-25? Give you just a moment to raise your hand, start coming forward. Not seeing any in the room. Would any member online wish to provide public comment on the main county proposed budget for fiscal year 24-25? Give you just a moment to utilize the raise hand function. Not seeing any hands. Chair Harrington.
Thank you, but before I close the public hearing, it appears that Mr. Kang, our budget manager, is making sure that I do everything properly, which is really important because we can't close out the current fiscal year budget, nor can we start a new fiscal year budget if we haven't followed the process appropriately. So at this juncture, I wish to just pause and give Mr. Munn, our Chief Financial Officer, a moment to make sure that I do everything right.
Yeah, thank you for a momentary break. Mr. Kang just notified me that in the language in the previous motions that the board made, they were noted as Exhibit B is where the budget was on each of the staff reports. It's actually Exhibit A. So those are all Exhibit A's. In the Washington County one, there's actually 2 exhibits. So Exhibit A should be noted there.
Okay, so I would like to turn to my legal counsel at this juncture and ask for each of those resolution and orders, since as we made the motion, we were referring to Exhibit A, but we had a scrivener's error when in fact it should have, we said Exhibit B when we should have said Exhibit A. Do we need to go back on each of those motions, or do we consider it a scrivener's error?
Sorry, new mic.
And now you're competing with the railroad.
So thank you, Chair Harrington, for the question. I think you can make one motion to clear the record, just to make the record clear that in each of the previous motions, we were referring to Exhibit A, consistent with the actual exhibit that exists.
Yes, thank you. So before I would like to summarize the motion, I would like to ask for a motion to replace our expression of Exhibit B with Exhibit A instead for the North Bethany County Service District for Roads budget, the Urban Road Maintenance District budget, the Enhanced Sheriff Patrol District budget, as well as the Service District for Lighting Number 1 budget.
So moved, Madam Chair.
Second.
All those in favor, please vote by raising your hand. Thank you, Commissioners. Any opposed? The motion carries unanimously 5-0. So I believe we've made all the appropriate corrections, right? Okay, great. And now we can move on to the Washington County budget. And just to be careful, in the motion, on the second line, we have set forth in Exhibit B. On the fourth line, we have set forth on Exhibit A and Exhibit B. Is that the right order? Yes.
That is correct.
Terrific. Okay. So We have a big budget. We've had lots of various presentations on the different departments that make up our full Washington County budget, and we're going to have a public hearing on it.
You've got a public hearing open. You need to close your public hearing. He's already asked for.
Oh, I did it. We did that already.
So just close the public hearing. and
Well, it's a
we're good.
little unusual that we took a motion while we're in the
That's
middle of a
right.
public hearing. Okay, so, but nevertheless, second call. Clerk Moss, could we please double check and make sure?
We certainly can, Madam Chair. Would any member in the auditorium wish to provide public comment on the main proposed county budget motion? As you've heard the presentation included in the packet, not seeing anyone in the room, would any member online wish to provide public comment on the main proposed county budget? Give you just a moment to utilize raise hand function. Not seeing any hands. Chair Harrington.
Thank you, Clerk Moss. We do want to make sure we do this right. And with that, I'm going to close the public hearing and ask my colleagues if they have any questions or comments before we move on to a motion to adopt the full Washington County budget. Or would you like to get a motion on the table and then do comments?
Either way.
I move to approve. Oh, yeah, I got to read in the recommended motion here. I move to adopt the fiscal year 24-25 Washington County budget and make appropriations as set forth in Exhibit B as approved by the Budget Committee in the amount of $2,142,861,813 and modified by the technical adjustments as set forth in Exhibit A, approved positions as set forth in Exhibit B, levy the permanent property tax rate of $2.2484 per thousand of assessed value, levy the public safety local option levy rate at 47 cents per thousand of assessed value, levy the local option levy rate at 22 cents per thousand of assessed value, and levy the general obligation bond in the amount of $5,551,038.
Second.
Thank you, Commissioner Willie, seconded by Commissioner Treese. I'd like to open the table up for any comments from commissioners before we vote. Go ahead, Commissioner Rogers.
Sure, I'd like to make a few comments. As we conclude this 40th in my career budget here at the county, my 40th and last, I want to thank the staff for the enormity of work that you've done. It's grown to a huge number compared to when I started, and I know the complexity is there as well. A few things. One, Greg, you brought transparency to the document. I appreciate that. I think it's a much more readable document. It's not where I know you ultimately want to be in my conversations with you, but it's certainly light years from where we've come. The CEO has mentioned challenges about funding. Those are there. I still contend that this county is going to be faced with continuing fiscal issues, and I appreciate you calling that out. I think you need to stress that because those who are remaining on the board or those who are coming need to understand that the challenges aren't met, that this wasn't gee, we had a few blips in funding for a couple of years. I still think it's going to be, $20 million just by simple math for the next few years, unless there's some additional funding opportunities. As far as the CIP, I want to thank you for the enormity of effort that you went through on that. We had pieces, but nothing that was aggregated like you've done. Now the challenge is going to be how do we fund all of that? That's a big challenge as well coming up. But I'm very confident that you have not only spent the time, heaven knows you've been our arms for, about 6 or 7 meetings on this particular budget, but you've made everyone aware of the complexities that a very large government that does everything everybody else doesn't want to do. That's the way I characterize it. We have a potpourri of services. So I appreciate what both of you have done. though I would have appreciated that we wouldn't have had to dip into MSIP and library. I've said that before. Majority of our budget committee made a decision. I'm fully going to support this budget. I think that that it needs to be done, and I know that you're doing everything you can in future years to try to figure how to adjust so that everybody's wishes are going to be heard and listened to. So big thank you. I'm going out feeling really good about what you've all done and feeling really good about my participation in this process. So thanks.
Thank you, Commissioner Rogers. Any other commissioners?
I'd just like to echo some of Roy's comments. I don't have 40 years worth of, I got 5. Does that count? So, but thank you all very much. Hard work. I know this is the conclusion of many months. It's not just a few. And so now you can go back and do your real job, but thank you very much for the hard work. This has been hard. Tanya, congratulations to you of getting this and working through this. We appreciate your hard work on this and certainly your leadership. So thank you for that.
Go ahead, Commissioner Treese.
Thank you. I just would like to echo what's been said so far. Roy, congratulations on 40 budget years successfully. That's amazing. And I do really want to extend, again, my appreciation to my fellow commissioners for the work that we've all done in focusing on this budget, overcoming our concerns, really working hard to understand and to support this budget. And great appreciation to our entire staff for the work that they've done. I am committed to making sure that we are here adopting this budget. Like it's been said, it is 3 a.m. in the morning here, but I'm very, very strong believer in what we're doing. So thank you.
Thank you for joining us today and seeing things through to the end of adoption. Commissioner Fye.
Thank you, Chair. Wow, Commissioner Treese, 3 a.m., that is a dedication and commitment to this county. Thank you for your service and being able to join us today. Tanya, to your team, Greg, to your team, this is my 4th year of, so Commissioner Willie, this is your 6th year.
Yeah.
Just the risk of correcting you on record. It is your 6th year. First year, I would say, was a great year for a new member on this board to participate in that budget process. There were no problems. The budget was very smooth. And as I tell the community members when they ask us our role and responsibility, one of the things I lean in and really make it clear is our role as a board of commissioners to the budget. You all prepared the budget. We adopt and approve. Obviously, there are changes and conversations and difficult conversations that happen throughout that process, but you all prepare. And I really appreciated, Tanya, for you reading on the record to quote from one of our budget committee, because there's an enormous amount of work that goes into it. We don't see, we ask tough questions. We send you some questions to answer and some homeworks to do, and you come prepared. And that's in addition to the work that you all are doing. $2 billion, it's no small feat. So thank you for your service to this county. Thank you for all the work you do. Steve, to your team as well. And I really appreciate being on this journey with you all. I don't take lightly my learning, my experience, and my contributions here. So I come prepared, and I appreciate you all, the services that you do. And I would say that while the first year was a great year, it got bumpier and bumpier and bumpier, but there's a light at the end of the tunnel, because I think we're coming off that with your leadership, Greg. So thank you, and I look forward to going back to that first year where there were no problems and no deficits to resolve. And to Commissioner Roy Rogers, thank you for your service. It's been an honor and joy and grateful to serve with you for the last 4 years, to mooch off from your own knowledge and wisdom and the historical perspective and history that you carry with you. So thank you, and look forward to what you do in retirement. And I look forward to joining you in that.
There's no retirement.
My turn. Each year we work hard to ensure that we are doing the best job that we can, telling the story of the great service that all of our employees do each and every day in service to this wonderful community of Washington County. So in addition to the presentations that have been highlighted, if you're looking for something a little lighter weight, I would encourage you to read the front section of the proposed budget. It is rich in information. But you might also want to read the questions and answers document because there is a lot of really interesting factual information there about the extent of the work that our teams do in service to you. So I want to join my 4 district colleagues in my thanks to all of you, to our staff, for all of the problem solving that you do, for following up on all of the questions from the Budget Committee and providing us with very informative presentations, as well as attending each of those budget committees with us. I want to give a big thanks also to you, Ms. Angie, for your leadership of our great senior leadership team, but our amazing 2,600 employees here at Washington County, while also working with our fellow, or my fellow, county-wide elected officials. We can be a heady bunch. We run for these jobs because we deeply care for our community. I also want to thank all of the members of our various budget committee members. And if you are interested in learning more about how government works, I would urge you to put your application forward to serve on these budget committees. They generally meet in a pretty concentrated extent of time. Yes, there is a lot of reading, but we also have the opportunity to ask a lot of good questions. And they have been with us each and every step of the way for these different budgets. And for us this year, for Washington County, a $2.1 billion budget, which has an extensive investment in foundation building and modernizing our county government operation in service to our community. And that includes making some changes to our service suite. We have more to go through in future years, but we are certainly, with this budget and our recent budget years, light years ahead of where we were in this, our 21st century. So with that, we do have a motion and a second. It's an extensive motion. And I would like to ask my colleagues to join me in raising our hands or saying aye to approve the Washington County budget. Thank you so much, colleagues. Any opposed? And with that, we have an approved Washington County budget. Thank you very much.
And Rickman, you should take a
bow.
Just take a break from numbers.
What I would say is, this is really a organization-wide effort to pull this together. And as we slowly change the way we were doing things over time, it will get better and better. And the light at the end of the tunnel, I think, is really true. We're starting to see that. So I'm excited about being back here next year and seeing all the things that we can achieve between now and then. Thank you.
Thank you, Greg. And with that, we're going to move to our second public comment period for this meeting. This is an opportunity for members of our community to come and address the board for up to 5 minutes an individual. Clerk Moss, do we have anyone who wishes to do so?
Good afternoon, Commissioners. I did not see anyone sign up in advance of the meeting. Would any member of the auditorium wish to provide public comment for up to 5 minutes on any county-related topic? Start to come forward, raise your hand. Not seeing in the room. Would any member online wish to provide public comment for up to 5 minutes on any county-related topic? I'll give you just a moment to utilize raise hand function. Not seeing any hands, Chair Harrington.
Thank you, Clerk Moss. Next, I'll start with board announcements. We have the State of the County event right here in the auditorium of the Public Services building at 6 p.m. this Thursday night, June 20th. It is free. I hope you'll join us. Yes, it will also be available on streaming video as well as available later for your viewing. Next Tuesday, June 25th, we'll have a work session at an unusual time. It's a short agenda, so we're going to have a work session starting at 4 p.m. So don't show up at 2 or at 1, 4 p.m. And then in the evening, we'll have our board meeting starting at 6:30 p.m. That's it for the month of June. Whew. The following week, which is the week of the U.S. Independence Day holiday, Tuesday, July 2nd. Don't show up at all for our meetings because we're not having them. And I wish all of our staff members a nice and quiet week. Or if you're on holiday or enjoying the long holiday weekend, be safe. The following Tuesday, we've made some changes because we only have 2 meeting days in July. Tuesday, July 9th, we're going to start with a work session at 9 a.m. Pause that for a board meeting. Yes, it is the second Tuesday of the month, but we're going to have both sets of meetings, board meeting at 10, then we'll reconvene after in work session. Tuesday, July 6th, we're going to have a work session in the afternoon starting at 1 p.m. Yes, we're mixing it up again because we have a lot of work to get into that day. And then we'll have a board meeting in the evening at 6:30 p.m. So please note, even though it's the middle of the month, we're having our evening board meeting on Tuesday, July 16th. Then the following week, Tuesday, July 23rd, we're not having our meetings. And then the following Tuesday, the 4th Tuesday of the month, July 30th, we are 5th. We're not having our meetings because we very rarely have meetings on the 5th Tuesday of the month. That's it. Ready for summer, folks? It's here. So I just want to take note that with our various meetings for our 3 different organizations, Housing Authority of Washington County, Clean Water Services, and all of the various parts of Washington County's budget, we have approved $3,091,000 of budgets. Big investment of service to our communities. Thank you to all who helped make that work possible. So with that, are there any other board announcements? Seeing none, I'd like to ask for a motion to adjourn today's meeting, and just a reminder, we will reconvene after lunch at 1:30 p.m.
So move.
We have a motion and a second. Thank you, Commissioner Trees, for joining us from afar. All those in favor of adjourning? Thank you, Commissioners. Any opposed? The motion carries unanimously, 5-0. We're hereby adjourned. Good day. Sweet dreams, Commissioner Trees. I hope you get a